Today, host Sadie Blue will show you how to make an effective decontamination site without spending lots of money.
That's right. As many of you know, the federal government has requirements for decontamination under the Worker Protection Standard for agriculture and state OSHA requirements. Fortunately, they don't discourage do-it-yourself or alternatives to the more pricey decontamination sites. Some states have their own regulations which are more stringent than the federal Worker Protection Standard for agriculture. So keeping this in mind, our roving decontamination unit designer Doug Trimble will show you how to make a sensibly cheap decon unit that complies with most state and federal rules. Doug?
Thanks, Sadie. As you can imagine, there are many ways to meet these requirements. Some stations are portable sites, while others are permanent. Some station sites are quite elaborate, while others sufficiently get the job done. There are lots of locations where a decontamination site should be set up, or at a minimum, places where decontamination supplies must be located. Can you ever imagine an accident occurring in a storage area? Or while making an application? How about in or around a service vehicle? These are prime locations to place a decontamination unit. The Federal Worker Protection Standard requires that decon sites be within 1/4 of a mile from agricultural employees. But no matter what business you're in, if you use pesticides, you should have a decon site nearby. So what's needed? Water, soap, towels, and clean coveralls. Looks like a simple water jug could cover the water needs, but if you don't want to be sensibly cheap, you can build something. The rules simply say soap, but I talked to the experts and they suggest liquid soap. So, to be sensibly cheap, I'm going to use plain old dish soap. Single-use towels are always cheap. Says here in the Worker Protection Standard, employers must provide each handler with at least 1 pint of emergency eye flush water when the pesticide label requires goggles for eye protection, and the eye flush water must be immediately accessible. An emergency eye wash station is easy to do on the cheap as well. Plumb an eye flush unit with running water for any permanent eye station. If running water is not available, buy some portable pint-sized eye wash containers or have the person carry a pint of clean water. Now, is that sensibly cheap or what? People buy water that's more expensive than gasoline, so we're not talking about big investments. Last item, clean coveralls. You can probably even find a pair at a thrift shop or secondhand clothing store. Don't worry if they're permanently stained. They're clean if they're washed. If someone's exposed, they can strip off their clothes, have a good wash and rinse, and have something clean to put on.
Thanks, Doug. Of course, a good decontamination plan can't help you if you don't use the equipment correctly. Until next week, remember to be sensibly cheap.